Okay, folks, apologies for the late start. We'll go ahead and start this meeting of the Lunenburg Conservation Commission of January 2022. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions, and not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the Open Meetings Law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is being held by Zoom and in person at the link provided in this notice, and also in the Ritter Building downstairs. The meeting ID for our Zoom link is 875-2621-4314. And just as a matter of protocol, this is a hybrid meeting. We don't have a lot of people here with us tonight, but we do have one member of the public that we need to maintain quiet in the room, or the recording will pick it up, even background noise. And everyone is to remain seated. If for some reason you need to get up, please depart the room promptly. And raise your hand if you're in the room and you need to speak. And then for any member of the public that is on, there are in your Zoom window some controls that are under the react icon on the window. You can use those and I will see it and call on you at the appropriate time. All righty, we'll start out with a roll call. Chris?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Jeff?
Present.
Rich?
Here.
Jenny?
Present.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any announcements from members of the commission? And do we have any, we'll now go to public comment. Public comment is to be limited to 3 minutes and on a subject matter under the direct jurisdiction of the commission. Comments about current agenda topics are to be made during the comment period of the specific agenda topic. Please address all comments to the chair. Do we have any public comments? Okay. And I see that we do not have any meeting minutes to vote on. So we will start out with our appointment hearings. Anna Wilkins of North Country Land Trust is back with us again tonight. We wanted to get you on at the beginning of the meeting, Anna, when we have the highest amount of public participation. So if you wanna speak, go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. And I appreciate the chance to come back to let folks know about what we're doing. So again, my name is Anna Wilkins. I'm the Director of Conservation and Climate for North County Land Trust. We're headquartered in Leominster, but we serve 16 communities, including Lunenburg, helping to conserve and protect important landscapes and natural resources for communities. So periodically, North County Land Trust does hold landowner workshops. These are information sessions targeting landowners. What we're trying to do is give landowners information if they're curious about conservation, what that might entail for their properties, but then also just to have landowners meet each other. There's plenty of opportunities to meet other landholders who might be going through management decisions such as timber harvests or agricultural opportunities. So it's kind of our way to help landowners network as well. We do have a date for it. It will be April 2nd from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Bull Run. This is a registration only event. And again, we are trying to target landowners who have 20 acres or above, or also, or who have significant interest in conserving their property for whatever reason. So landowners who want to attend can email info@North County Land Trust. We will have registration up soon, but it's not quite up yet on our website. And again, so we do have we're trying to group communities together to make the most of our organizing of such an event. We have Lancaster, Shirley, Lunenburg, and Air all participating in this round. And I would ask the commission to think about co-sponsoring this event with us and making a contribution towards the effort. I'm hoping to have each community contribute $250. North County Land Trust and Nashua River Watershed Association are both contributing $500 plus all of the staff time going into organizing. So I would love for that to be entertained if possible. And I will work with the Open Space Committee on invitations for specific landowners. If there's any conservation land of interest for the town, we'd love to reach out to those landowners, make sure that they're on the list, and get information that they might be able to use for planning for their land and getting the most out of the resources that they have.
Excellent, thank you. Now, are conservation commissioners welcome at this, or is it exclusively landowners?
Yeah, commissioners can sign up for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. And when would you need to know a decision on the sponsorship?
Probably in the next month or so. We can certainly put the commission on, at least you can co-sponsor in spirit, and then figure out if you can contribute to it later, but we'd love to at least get the blessing and the support.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Do we have any questions from members of the commission? Many of us had an opportunity to hear the pre-spiel at the last meeting. Do we have any questions, comments from members of the public? Okay, and I'm not seeing any. Anna, thank you so much for coming back and sharing that information with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hope to see some of you there.
Thanks.
I'll be back. All right, bye.
Okay, moving along. So we did have, and it's a little bit early, but I think we have the right parties on the call. 1168 Mass Ave violation discussion. I think I saw the parcel owner on that. I don't know if Jeff or Brian want to talk through this.
Sure. This is Brian Marchetti here, McCarty Engineering. This work on this parcel, I believe, dates back to around 2020. It was owned, I think, in the past by somebody else, and the Powells purchased it around that time frame. They've been haying it for decades, though, and I know the property has been hayed, I think, since like the 1800s or something. It's been a long time. So we had met. I think there was an existing farmhouse on it. This was before I started working on it. The Powells had obtained either an RDA or an order of conditions to demo the existing house that was out there. And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was right around 2020.
Yeah.
And then at the time, or immediately after, we reached out to the commission for a site walk. The that Jeff wanted to clear some more trees on the property and expand the limits of the hayfield. We had walked it with Matt Marrow at the time, and I think this was right around the same time of his transition when he left the town of Lunenburg, and with Nadia. And at the time, they established that, yeah, he had the right to clear the trees and the vegetation, which was all done back then. And then I got involved more so when we designed the septic system and house location out there after. And then in 2022, which is when I believe the permits are on the town of Lunenburg's website, all the plans and approvals went through the town for the septic system, and the house didn't require any type of permitting the planning board. So when the Powells or when Jeff applied for building permits, there were several rounds of inspections, and Nadia came out and reviewed the site with them. They walked the driveways, the crossings, the house, and everything, and it clearly states on the website that there was no work in the buffer zone. And I think the most important aspect of this was at the time, in 2022, they reviewed the drainage channel that goes through the property. And at the time, Nadia determined that it was a drainage ditch. It was a farm ditch, and it was not a perennial stream or intermittent stream, and told them that none of the work there was within buffer zone. So that was the last I had heard of it. That's the last I had worked on it with them. So since 2022, Jeff's been haying the fields and expanding the property, and expanding what he's his agricultural use on the property. Under the presumption that that was a drainage ditch and nothing was jurisdictional. So that kind of brings us to today. I don't know when a complaint was made or whatever happened between now and then. That's where we're at. Whatever work was done out there was done after Jeff was told that it wasn't a jurisdictional ditch. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Jeff,
Sure.
was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think he covered it pretty good.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, yeah, I was notified of a issue down there and reviewed the Near Map, which is a town subscription for historical satellite imagery.
Mhm.
And Near Map gives the town access to, usually they're about 6-month snapshots of satellite imagery all across the state. Of course, we primarily focus in Lunenburg, and it did appear there have been substantial changes down there in and around what appears like maybe protected resource areas and areas that do show up on the Mass Mapper as DEP protected wetlands. Sophia, do you want to give us a summary of your walk?
So I went out and essentially when you first walk up the driveway, the first thing I noticed was the work that was already done a while ago, as stated, presumably 21 or 22, for the driveway area where there is a stream that crosses underneath. There was a newly repaired culvert in which the owner put in himself, and that area seemed to be part of the hydrologic connection that starts on the wetland system. If you're looking at a snapshot of on Mass Mapper, it will be to the west, and then the hydrologic connection runs to the east, in which there was a secondary culvert installment, roughly, I don't know the square footage, but the culvert was very, very long, in comparison to the first one that was installed. And that was, concrete. And the entirety of that, to my understanding, that stream had I guess you could say wetland grasses and sedges, I would assume. Both based on my physical, site visit and, the chronological and historical photographs, going back in time. You can see the changes. And then, as you move further to the other side of the northern side of the wetland, area where it connects, there seems to be a large kind of swath of wetlands. And then it kind of goes to the right and this is the parcel here. It goes to the right and then it starts a kind of peninsula shape. And both on the layers, on Mass Mapper, Stream Stats, all kinds of maps show that that area is also a wetland location as well. And that really sums up my visual observations. I did notice that that area was not mowed in comparison to the rest of the parcel.
What area are you talking about?
It's to the right of the cursor,
So where's your cursor?
right here.
Okay, so this
This is the
area,
peninsula.
ah,
I'm
okay,
talking about that
right,
is-
so that's where I'm pointing at now for the people that are, viewing. Okay,
This is not a complete hydrologic connection. It's really just, it seems like it's just topography driven, wetland species that are happening over there.
okay,
Those were like the visual observations that I saw.
okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so, it does seem like, there are some protected resource areas there. One of the things that I had noticed in looking at this is that there's a floodplain also, on the parcel. Did you look at that layer on Mass Mapper?
There is a floodplain, and I did take note on the same, OpenGov, filing that, Brian brought up. Nadia's notes state that there is riverfront area as well,
Okay,
early on in the chain of, comments.
okay. Interesting.
I don't know exactly if she was referring to the stream. I mean, there's multiple streams kind of happening on this property, but
Mhm.
that was
The
important.
streams from MassGIS are all downstream of this property. The MassGIS or the USGS lines do not cross this property. And I know back at the time, like I said, I wasn't involved back in 2020 when the initial work was done, but I know after the fact, I haven't been able to find it. And we had walked it with Matt and with Nadia. In the summertime, that stream was dry. The main one you're talking about where the driveways are crossing. So when you're talking about riverfront area, it could be on the property, but looking at the USGS maps, it's downstream of this parcel.
Thank you for that, Brian.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have questions from members of the commission?
I'd like to understand where Nadia's notes about it being a ditch, that's what I'm struggling with, that back in 2020, she didn't identify something as a ditch. Where's the ditch and is that, what does that have to do with what we're talking about today, or does it, is it related?
Can you answer that, Brian or Jeff?
Yeah, I'd like to try to. Yeah, when you in the Wetland Protection Act, when you read the definition of land and agricultural use, the terminology that's used throughout for farmland is drainage ditches, cross ditches, things like that. And, you know, Jeff, you correct me if I'm wrong, you're the one who walked the site with her back then. They walked the scope of the site. They walked the house, they walked the driveway, they walked where the crossing was. And that was exactly what she had called it.
Yeah, that's correct. When I walked the driveway with her and stuff, she kind of told me that, you know, that there was a drainage, like a farm drainage ditch, and you know, there was no wetland infraction or anything, you know, from what I had done.
I think, Chris, they might be talking about this area.
Yes.
Is this what you guys are talking about?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
And my understanding of a stream, even a perennial stream, is that there's a hydrological connection between two wetlands, and we do see on Mass Mapper that there are upstream wetlands. So it appears that it actually does meet the, at least without having been out there myself, the definition of a stream. Other questions from members of the commission? Did you have other questions? No? Okay.
But if it
Yes.
is defined as a stream, correct, it could be either perennial or intermittent. It doesn't necessarily mean it is perennial.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Rich,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a quick question. So back in the submission to tear down the old farmhouse in 2020, who owned the property at that point?
We did.
Okay. And I noticed in the submission that you delineated the intermittent stream, or whatever we're calling it right now, as wetland in your submission. So at that point, somebody must have thought that it was at least a wetland running down through there, correct? And I'm not sure, Brian, if you had drawn that up for them in 2020?
No, I wasn't part of this
Okay,
permitting effort.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, at least in one of the past submissions, you were calling it a wetland in through there. So with the agricultural exemption, I mean, it does allow you to do work in the buffer zone, but not necessarily in the wetland itself, at least without filing for certain. So I guess at this point, that answers my questions as far as who owned it when we called it a wetland back in 2020. But at that point, it doesn't look like it was called a stream at that point.
Rich, is there a copy of that? Is there a copy of that plan that we'd be able to get a copy of? Or I'd be able to get a copy of?
It's a photocopy that somebody had taken and highlighted the 30, 50, and 100-foot buffers. And I can email it right over to you, Brian.
Okay,
Give me
thank you.
1 second here. And I will, yeah, give me a minute and I will email that. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all my questions for right now.
thank you, Rich. Any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, and I'm seeing any comments from members of the public? Okay, then I think we need to think about like what are the next steps. And I for myself would be looking for an RDA or NOI application to actually go through the formality of permissioning the work down there and doing a wetland delineation.
Has anybody in Lunenburg with this commission in the past filed a, I guess, I forget the terminology for it, but like a farm plan, a conservation plan that would address or has addressed scopes of work like this that this commission has seen?
I haven't seen one recently. I mean, well, I'll tell you, I haven't seen one since I've been a commissioner.
Okay.
I do know that, it's, called out as, appropriate for farmland management.
Mhm. I'm new to this too, so I've been just trying to review the regulations and like you said, determine a path forward here. And, besides an NOI, that was kind of seemed like one of the paths forward that we could work with the USDA to put together a farm plan that would address the same work that's been done. And I know there's a company locally, I think in Hudson, that does these that I was going to call and consult just to see if this applies. And if that was the case, I think basically they do the same thing. They put together this conservation plan and then we present that to the commission. But at least they work with this a lot, so they're a lot more familiar with the agricultural exemptions and things like that. I don't want to just propose things kind of willy-nilly and then we argue about it for months and months. I'd rather try to get this kind of streamlined and done the right way the first time.
Yeah, I think that's a shared interest, Brian. So thank you for putting that out there. Rich, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, we did have an agricultural exemption filing 2 or 3 years ago down on Mulpus Road.
Okay.
There was a goat farmer in there that took down a whole bunch of trees up to and through the wetland and did a little wetland filling down there. And I don't think he's still doing it anymore, but Tom Christopher had presented his application.
Okay.
But I don't know if Tommy's still doing it or if he's off to more fun places than Leominster and Lunenburg.
He may be, but I could reach out to him and ask.
Super.
And Rich, in your opinion, is developing and filing a farm plan an appropriate next step?
I don't have a ton of experience with it, but probably reaching out to the USDA office of is it soil conservation?
I think it's
Develop a farm
in
plan,
Hudson.
Yeah, that may be a good start if you can't get a hold of Tom.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not too cumbersome, but it's just a matter of knowing what you can and can't do and how to present it.
Yep.
Would be my recommendation, Brian. And I
Okay.
sent that email over a couple of minutes ago. You should have it.
All right. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, so then in terms of next steps, maybe we should continue this so that, Brian, you have an opportunity to reach out to those resources and come back with I don't expect you'll come back with an actual plan within the next couple of weeks, but by the next meeting, maybe come back with kind of like, here are the proposed plan that you would ask us to accept.
Okay.
And timing for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is kind of new to all of us, so it's not going to be a one and done. I think I'll reach out to them. I'll try to get some direction, and at worst case, or at a minimum, come back next meeting and kind of give you an update on what we've determined and kind of what we think is the right path forward. And if I get more information sooner than that, I'll coordinate with Sophia so you're up to speed.
Okay, very good. So our next meeting is the 29th, but it's an off cycle that we're only hearing, lake plans on. So the next, regular meeting that we have would be the 5th of February. Does that, work for a target?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to continue to February 5th.
So moved.
All right, I got a motion by, okay, I got a motion by Chris and a second by Jenny. Roll call vote. Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jenny,
Hi.
and I for myself. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to new public hearings, and before we go farther down there, Sophia, have we had any requests for continuance?
No, not recent ones.
Okay, very good. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Ryan Vickers for removal and replacement of a collapsed drain pipe through the side yard of a single-family residential property within the 100 and also the 50-foot buffer zones and a 30-foot no-touch zone of Hickory Hills Lake located at 32 Hemlock Drive. And do we have Mr. Vickers and or his representative here with us tonight?
Greg Roy with Dilson Roy. Ryan is an engineer for our office. We pulled the application together. And I'm representing the applicant, which is actually Tom Mason at 32 Hemlock Drive.
Okay,
So I don't know if we want to try and share this too with the, I don't know, if it's a little tricky with the hybrid yet. So the folks can see it. Wait, just to,
What would you like to?
I think just the site plan. And I'll try to be as descriptive as I can for the members of the board and the public that might be on this. Because I'm pointing at a plan for the first time in 4.5 years.
Post disabled, screen sharing.
hang on a second. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so, couple of things that we're proposing, none of which are really significant, but there's a general issue between Hemlock Drive, on the Hemlock Drive side of the road, excuse me, of the house in the front yard, if you will. The applicant is getting a pretty decent amount of flooding that's occurring in his front yard. And what's happening is that there's a town drain that comes down between the adjacent lot and Mr. Mason's property, and comes down and exits in there's an existing pipe that runs right down along the side of his property through my client's property and exits out here at Hickory Hills. That pipe is completely crushed. It's an old clay pipe, and it's crushed in various spots. You can see that it's crushed down by the lake. You can also, you can't really, it's certainly crushed or filled in up here, such that what's happening is the flow is coming down off the road. And again, it receives town drainage from Hemlock Drive, discharges it down here, has no place to go, and it just floods out the area that's in front of the house. Sort of for the folks online, yeah, the area where we have that stone trench, where it says flow line, right in that whole area, between the shed and the house, that whole low area, it gets flooded out and it's impacting the house. It's getting into the house, in fact. So he hired us to try to figure out a way to address that. The first thing we're gonna do is between the shed and the house, we're gonna do a little bit of grading, and we're gonna kind of update things to get it so that the pitch is away from the house and it flows around to the side. So if he has an issue with runoff, like I've just described, that it will be directed away from the house. But secondly, he made an attempt to contact the DPW to replace the drain. It's just plain not on their capital plan. So he thought it would be wise, since we're putting a filing before you anyway, just to see if we can get permission to replace that drain line. So we're not proposing a new drain line. It's just to remove and replace an existing drain in the same size, in the same location, to resolve the issue. I think there may still be some back and forth that he might want to do with the DPW, with the hope that the DPW would find some money to be able to do that, but at least it would be permitted through your commission. And being that it's on his property, the DPW would really, in fact, need permission to do that work on his property anyways. There is no easement that we could find that the town has. So it's sort of one of those situations where you have a subdivision that was done a long time ago, and sometimes easements don't get recorded, so. That is in fact what we're proposing, really no hardscape, just, it's really a grading exercise and replacement of the drain line that goes right along the side of the property. We are of course proposing erosion control barrier, just to isolate the area, when we're doing the work, but we don't expect it to be a real long, construction, process, so, no tree removal. All the work is within previously disturbed areas on site, so. That is it, and we did get, one DEP we did get a file number from DEP on this one, and we did get one comment relative to a point source discharge. We're not proposing a new point source discharge, we're just essentially repairing a pipe that's crushed. So, our view is it doesn't constitute a new point source discharge. It's a drain line that's been taking town drainage for decades. And we need to, we need to fix it so that it doesn't flow into the master bedroom of the house, so. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. So I wasn't clear on the dimensions of the proposed outlet, and when I was out on the site this weekend, it wasn't clear to me, you know, like you said, I mean, it's really apparent that it's damaged, right? And like chunks of pipe that
Right.
floated up to the top and whatnot.
Right.
But it wasn't clear to me the actual dimensions of that outflow gravel area.
Oh, okay, I see, yeah. So we're showing some riprap there. I mean, our intention is really not to do much additional work there. I mean, it's always good practice to put a little bit of scour protection there, so you're not washing the soil into the lake.
Yeah, and it seemed like where the pipes were broke, I mean, you know, to the extent we could tell where they went really close to the lake
They
too.
did.
So, if we could, you know, maybe back the pipes up a little bit and put a little bit more riprap there, right? To slow things down and, you know, let things maybe even encourage them to settle just a little bit, it'd be great.
Look at that.
Okay. That was other than that, I thought it was really straightforward, you know, and looking at the elevations and everything, in my opinion, I could, you know, really understand like, well, yeah, I can totally understand why somebody would need to do this. Jenny was able to go out there with me over the weekend. Jenny, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
So, I mean, I disagree with Mary. I'd like to see a bigger area for the water to recharge before it gets to the lake.
Okay.
So more riprap.
Any questions or comments from members of the commission? Yes,
I
Chris.
just want to echo, I really like your idea of shortening that pipe a little bit and just, you know, having riprap a little further away from the shore. So I like that idea.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Sophie, I'm not seeing any other commissioners with their hands raised. Did you just want to give us your assessment of the area?
I would just echo, it's a fairly straightforward project. They have the erosion controls, and I could see having a couple feet away, especially like if you were to put the end of the culvert a little bit further away from the edge of the bank, that would be nice, especially if you wanted to plan to replenish and expand the area of the riprap. But other than that, it's a really more straightforward projects. I don't have any concerns with it.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. Oh, the owl's tracking me. That's a new phenomenon. It's cool, but
It
new.
is cool. Yeah.
Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? And I'm not seeing any. Greg, did you want to look at that and propose some dimensions for us and come back?
I think I better.
Okay,
I mean, ordinarily you could probably close that and condition it, but why don't I just take a look at that because, yeah, why don't I take a look at it?
That would be-
Get your revised plan.
that would be great.
I don't think we're gonna be doing the work in the next couple of weeks anyway, so.
Yeah.
No, not unless you're a masochist. Yeah, so the next, meeting, is February 5th.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to continue to February 5th?
So moved.
Go move.
Chris? And Rich, will you second that?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Jenny,
Hi.
Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
and I for myself.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Sally Tonali Luck and Richard Tonali, represented by Matt Morrow, for the replacement of one retaining wall, replacement of a section of walkway pavers, and removal of 3 trees with replacement vegetation on the shore of Lake Shirley located at 352 Sunset Lane. And do we have the applicants or their representative here with us tonight?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Morrow here on Zoom.
Thank you, Matt. You want to run us through this? Do you have the ability to share from your, hang on just a minute, Matt. Jeff, I didn't see your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair, as a direct abutter, I'll just recuse myself from this.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, Matt, back to you. Do you have the ability to share for us and take us through this project?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Give me one sec here. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm here this evening for I'm representing Sally Tonali Luck and Rick Tonali at 352 Sunset Lane. What we have is an existing single family home, an existing shed, an existing little like brick oven on site, and an existing paver walkway. The proposal is to replace a timber retaining wall going along the water that is rotted out and collapsing. I know that I was out on site with Sophie, so she saw it. I don't know how many of the commissioners went out. I believe I may have included some pictures in my notice of intent showing that the land is starting to collapse behind the retaining wall. And there are areas here where some of the pavers have started to collapse. So what the applicant is petitioning for is to replace the wall with a fieldstone wall. Brett Ramsden Fieldstone Walls will be doing a fieldstone wall in replace of the existing rotted retaining wall that is out here. There will be no changes in dimension on the wall, no changes in height. It's going in the exact same spot. There's no changes in elevation. I would point out that the surveyor who did this, which was Topper Land Survey, I had them locate the 100-year floodplain pertinent to this lot on the plan, which is where my hand cursor is waving. Almost the entirety of the lot is within the 100-year floodplain. We have the 30-foot buffer zone, the 50-foot buffer zone here. All we're looking to do is replace this in kind. We're looking to add a removable dock, replace the pavers in kind here because you have a section that is collapsing. And he also would like to remove these 3 trees, and he has proposed planting 6 shrubs native in its place of any variety that the commission would like. I know there's arborvitae on site now. An emerald green arborvitae would be an excellent replacement because they're native and they grow pretty large, almost like a tree, without some of the problems that we have here. That's my brief Reader's Digest version. I don't have a DEP number yet. I did put in request a DEP to see if they could maybe get a number by tonight's meeting, but I know that they've been backed up. So I know I'm going to have to continue the meeting. Other than that, that's basically it.
Matt or Sophie, do you have a photo of the existing pavers?
Somewhat. I think it's kind of dusted in snow, but I do.
I'm gonna stop my share and look for pictures if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Matt.
Should be in my site visit.
And Jenny and I did have an opportunity to go out there this weekend. And yeah, pretty much everything is just as Matt represented. The trees, though, one of them looks damaged. Maybe another one, but I didn't see anything noticeable on the third one. But they are.
I've
they
got
are
a picture if I
trees.
can share my screen when Sophie's done. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's fine, Matt. We're all interested in the same thing. You're doing okay. Matt, why don't you, if you've got your photos queued up, why don't we go with your data?
So this is from my notice of intent. You can see the end of the paver section right here. You can see where all the land is collapsed in the wall. And that is what I have for that paver section. He's looking to basically pull the pavers out. I mean, some of them are going to have to come out as a consequence to the land being dug back. So there may be a little bit more, a little farther up, but those would be replaced in kind. Here's another photo showing the paver areas. You can see these are starting to go down.
Okay, that's much better. Thank you. Yeah, and so with the replacement in kind, there would be similar type of space in between the pavers.
That's correct. He's not looking to change anything. He's just looking to get it repaired.
Okay. Okay, questions or comments from members of the commission? Yes, Rich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't notice any erosion protection and a written schedule of work for when we're gonna do this, start, stop, and any plans in case the water doesn't get to a certain level.
So the applicant is looking to do it as soon as he's able to obtain final approval and the appeal period expires. He wants to get started before the water backs up. Mr. Ramsden has a procedure when the water does start to come back up where he has an erosion curtain that he uses routinely on these sites that he would place at, the length of the entire wall. In fact, I think I might have a plan here that, nope. Just bear with me for 1 sec. Let's see what I got. So he can do like an erosion curtain that goes the length of the entire wall going out in here. The dock is a removable dock, so that wouldn't even be placed in until after everything else was done. I don't know if that answers your question.
Is he looking to put erosion protection up before he starts, or?
Well, that's what Mr. Ramsden normally does. And I'm assuming that in order of conditions would have that as a stipulation, and the erosion protection has to be up and inspected before he starts work.
Okay, yeah, if we can just put that on the plan, would be great.
Okay.
That with the location of it, and of course, a little call out that has to be in place and approved prior to the start of work.
Do you want that on the plan too?
Might as well, if you're adding the line. And what is, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get out there. What is the water level that were they able to drain it to the normal 4 foot?
I didn't do any measurements, Rich, to be honest with you, but it looks like it's down pretty good. So It looks like it's down as usual when they do the 4 foot drawdown, but I can't say that with authority.
Last time.
How long is Brett planning to spend on the R&R of the wall?
Walls like that usually take 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And what was the material again that the wall was going to be built with?
Fieldstone.
Fieldstone?
Fieldstone.
Okay.
Yep, so erosion protection schedule, and that would be great, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, other questions by members of the commission?
Question or comment?
Yes, please, Sophie.
So in terms of yes, having the erosion control on the plan is a must. I would also love to see the walkway. The actual plan says, you know, where the walkway is, but it doesn't actually say it on the plan to be replaced. And I know we discussed that on our site visit, Matt, but I don't know if I ever received that plan update. I don't think I did, and I didn't see it uploaded onto OpenGov.
No, I would point out that I believe in my notice of intent narrative, under the scope of work being sought, it does say replace the paver walkway in kind with no changes in dimension.
Okay.
I mean,
but
I'll add that on the plan, but I just wanted to point out
Yeah.
that it was in the NOI.
But does that give detail in to what extent of the walkway is replaced? All of it or portion of it?
Well, I'm assuming if he has to change the type of block he uses, meaning like he can't use the exact same blocks, he may change them all out, but they would be the same basic block, same dimensions. He doesn't want to change anything. He just wants to repair it. So I can have that area called out on the plan, make it a little bit more specific. Not a big deal.
And then the linear feet of the wall replacement, I'm thinking kind of like way ahead, if this were to be approved, submitting documents to DEP. Part of that is filling out that portion that has a linear feet to be replaced for the bank area.
Sophie, I'm not following you.
For an orders of conditions, typically you fill out the linear feet to be replaced, alter changes, proposed changes, approved changes.
But
Yeah, it's
simply adding the note that it's linear, this many linear feet are being replaced, right, on the wall? Are you asking for
Right.
more than that?
No, that's exactly.
Okay.
what I'm asking
Yeah,
for.
in theory, we could scale it off of a drawing, but it's a lot easier if it's just a note
Yeah.
annotated there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, I'd like to point out on the notice of intent on page 3 of 9, it does say size of proposed alteration. Basically 180 square feet, 90 feet of wall, which is linear feet, 2 feet in width. And the proposed replacement is identical. It's marked as bank. And in my NOI narrative, I also noted.
Okay, thanks,
Okay,
Matt.
thank you.
So Jenny, you have your hand up?
I was actually, I wanted to talk about the trees. Are we ready to
Sure.
talk about the trees yet? So I'm curious, why the tree near the water? What was wrong with that tree? And why did we want to take it down?
So the tree near the water is very damaged on the crown. It's got bark falling off. It's essentially dying. It's not going to be there. It's going to essentially have another good, like real good downpour, cloud burst. It's going to wind up falling apart. It was one thing. Sophie and I did scope out the trees. The tree right near the water, it was noted immediately that that one was the one that was in tough shape. That's the reason for that.
Okay, and if they are taken out, would you leave the stump?
Yes, there's no plan to remove the stump. We could either leave a little bit of the stump above or we can grind it in.
Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Mike, you had your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair. My question was also about the trees. You had begun earlier saying you could see 2 of the trees being removed, but you were questioning the 3rd tree, and you never really finished your thought on that. So I was just curious about that. And then Do we really have a one tree to replacement with two shrubs? Is that is that what we use for an equation on tree replacement?
Definitely within the 30-foot. All of these trees are not within the 30-foot, but they're still proposing a 2-for-1 as far as I can tell. And yeah, so two of the trees seemed obviously damaged. The third tree, I questioned about it being damaged. So what was your observation of the tree?
Which trees were damaged and how were they, like what nature of damage?
So
Actually, I can bring up the-
yeah, the one behind the, immediately behind the driveway, looked like it had, dropped some branches, but, you know, it looked like maybe it could just be pruned up and have the damaged branches pruned up. The one immediately behind the house, looked like it had kind of a similar issue, but maybe also a root ball. It looked like there was something funky going on, right around where the roots enter the ground, and then the one closest to the water looked like the crown was damaged.
So I believe this is the one that's closest to the house.
Yeah, immediately behind the house.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the crown of that looks fine.
I mean, I think the two closest to the driveway and the house are mature trees, but in fair condition. I would propose that they could be pruned on the side that's closest to the house and closest to the driveway. But I don't see why they need to be removed, other than that. The tree that's closest to the water, I believe, does have some issues going up on the top area. But it's not really posing any hazard.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
So,
Thank-
Madam Chair, if I may, real quick, and I'm sorry, Mike, I'm sorry, if you want to go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just wanted to thank you for revisiting the tree issue, and since they've been on site, they can certainly have a better understanding of what can be saved or what can't be saved, but go ahead, Matt, that's all I had.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mike.
again, Mike, my apologies. So, Madam Chair, am I to say that you didn't personally have a problem with the 26-inch maple behind, next to the house and the damaged tree over by the water? But your issue was why couldn't we just prune the 40-inch maple behind the driveway?
so, my observation of the one behind the driveway was that it had some damaged branches. That looked like, they could be pruned. The one immediately behind the house, the crown looked okay. And as I looked at it, as it goes into the ground, I wasn't certain, but it looked like, there was some things that I would want to talk to an arborist about, right where it enters the ground. So that's what I said, Matt.
Okay. So, if the commission would consider, if I could just share my screen again real quick here.
Okay, please do, Matt.
Can you see that now?
Yes.
If we remove this tree, and I'm sure I could talk my client into leaving this tree here and just having it pruned,
Yeah, okay.
especially on this side because, for some reason they park cars close to it, so.
Yeah, it really overhangs the driveway there. Yeah. That would work for me as one vote on the commission.
Okay, I'm sure I can get him to go along with that.
Okay, so then, do we have, I don't see any other hands from members of the commission. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? And it looks like, Matt, we have a short list of, notes, that you need to add to your drawing. The next meeting is February 5th.
Yes, if I could have a continuance to them, and hopefully I will have a DEP number.
Jeff, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Madam Chair, 338 Sunset Lane. I'm actually the owner to the north of that property, but we also have a fieldstone wall. And if Matt would like to send over a letter, he would get my permission to, I guess, kind of feather his wall into my wall if that's required. So,
Thank you for that.
sure.
Thank you, Jeff. I will talk to my client about that.
Yeah, yes.
Matt, while you're doing the plans, can you also update the tree removal, indicate the changes proposed?
You know, it's who just said that?
That was Chris.
That's funny because I was just writing that down. So
Okay.
yes,
He was looking over your shoulder. It's a new owl feature.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to continue to February 5th.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Okay, Rich and Mike for the motion, Rich for the second. And roll call vote, Chris.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff.
I can't really say.
Oh, that's right, you're recused.
Yeah.
Rich,
aye.
Jenny,
Hi.
and I for myself.
so before we finish the continuance, if I could just go over this laundry list really quick to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay,
So I've got the Commissioner Birch wanted the erosion protection barriers put on the plan and the pre-construction inspection called out on the plan. The 2 trees to be removed and that being noted onto the plan. And Sophie wanted the specific area of the walkway to be replaced, spelled out on the plan.
it's aligned with my notes. Sophie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Moving along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a request for determination of applicability by Melissa Canavino for the renovation of patio stairs and walkway within the 50-foot buffer zone of Hickory Hills Lake at 67 Island Road. And do we have the owner and or the representative here with us tonight?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, you are really soft in volume for some reason. So speak up, so we can all have the benefit of hearing what you have to say. Do you have the ability of sharing, or do you need for us to share the project plan?
No, I can share the project plan.
Okay.
So first, this is the initial structure. It was our greenhouse that was built in the early 70s. And it imploded with a large amount of snow back in, I think, the early 2000, maybe 2012, 2013. And we use the existing structure. You can see these cinder blocks that it was built upon. We had actually the gentleman that built it, I believe it was built in 1976. He came and very carefully removed the structure, and we tried to clean up all the glass and everything that was here. So we ended up building on the exact same footprint. And I have another picture. Let me share with you. Sorry. Here's a site plan that we came up with, and we built this ourselves. The existing patio, and you can see it has a walkway down to where the existing greenhouse was, with entrances on both, it's south facing, both on the east and west side of our property. So we just use the same exact footprint. It's actually a little bit smaller, so we could use, like we said, those same concrete steps. And then we did have an addition of a short knee wall to discourage stepping off onto uneven terrain that goes down to the lake. But otherwise, the same exact footprint was used. And so basically we just did repairs to things that were crumbling and needed, you know, some kind of adjustment. We couldn't leave all the glass, and that was there.
Okay, thank you. So one thing that I would be looking for on that drawing is the distance of the structures from the actual water line. So it looks like the dimensions that you have on there are from maybe a point on the property line.
No, so the distance from the knee wall that we built, the actual wall to the lake, I mean, I think at the highest level is probably somewhere between 28 and 30 feet. But the water changes here so much, like right now, obviously the water's drawn down, so it's
to the high
beyond the
water
buffer
mark.
level.
Yeah,
I'm
to the
sorry?
high water mark is the standard.
So I think that's somewhere right within the buffer zone at 30 feet.
Did you have an opportunity to measure?
I didn't measure, but I would say no more than 30 feet away
Okay,
from the bank.
okay,
Mark on the bank.
yeah. Okay, so I think we need actual measurement. Maybe you could go down and measure that for them, so we can get it added to the drawing. Because I think it's important to understand whether the new structure is actually in the buffer zone or not in the buffer zone.
Which buffer zone, because it's in at least one of them.
The 30-foot buffer zone, no touch zone, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely within the 50-foot, no structure zone. Yes. Okay, could you show the drawings, Sophia?
Over here.
Yeah, that would be great. So I also noticed stairs off of the deck. So kind of in the vicinity of where on the drawing, the dimension of 28.7 or 28 feet and 7 inches is shown. And those are not on the drawing.
The stairs were not on the drawing.
I don't see them on the drawing. And then my observation of the construction of the deck is that it cantilevers over what definitely appears to be the pre-existing cinder block wall. The cantilever appears to extend the deck 2 feet beyond what the wall had previously been. And then the deck, the stairs down from the deck go farther than that.
Then the concrete, yes, but we actually had, there was a walkway, so it was a working greenhouse and there were doors on each side. So we had a walkway that was just overgrown with vegetation, and you know, again, that was built in the 70s and 80s and we just walked around it. So we had blocks in there originally in the 70s. So this is just all, again, trying to repair what was there. So even though
I understand, but what I'm getting at is, you know, it's one thing within the regulation to go in and build on an existing footprint within a protected area, right? Because it historically had been there. It's another thing to use that and then extend into the buffer zones more by doing a cantilever of the deck, and then also adding stairs, not to the side, but into further ingressing into the buffer zones. Do you have photos, Sophie?
Yes, they should.
Let's show the photos, and I think the commission will have a clear understanding of what I'm verbally trying to articulate.
But the stairs didn't go down further than what the existing walkway was. There just weren't stairs there previously because there wasn't a deck. There was a greenhouse and a walkway.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So that was the old one. Actually don't have them readily in OpenGov, but I do believe I have them in the Google Photos.
Okay, you should go look. And while Sophie's looking for photos, do we have questions or comments from members of the commission? And then Jenny, is there anything you might want to add? I've been not calling on you a lot because I know you're under the weather.
I just I'm going through old near map photos and I'm not seeing a walkway. I'm all the way back to now 2016. I'm seeing a little walkway over to the side, but I'm not seeing a walkway in that area at all. When was that walkway there?
In the 70s and 80s, my dad built it.
Okay, how long has it been gone?
It was never gone. It really just grew over with, you know, grass and vegetation. We just didn't keep up with it.
I'm not seeing it anywhere here in the past, but do you have any pictures of it? Like, even overgrown?
I can check. I don't have a lot. Honestly, I have more of the greenhouse and the house itself, but not, you know, you
Okay.
didn't take pictures of walkways back then.
Yeah.
It was really just so when you came down those stairs, there was a greenhouse. So you walked there and then you walked around and there was an entrance on the other side too, right? So one on the east, one on the west, like because it was a working greenhouse. So you walked in, you just walked around. There was an entrance on each side. So there was a walkway. It just wasn't, you know, obviously as prominent as this is.
There was a walkway just directly in front of the greenhouse and there was that connected to doors on the side.
Exactly.
Okay. Those are my only questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, and so in this photo, you can see the stairs, and then you can also see that, you know, that void immediately under the deck. That's the cantilever area that I was talking about. So it's about 2 feet back, is from the edge of the deck is where the pre-existing cement wall is.
Those are all the photos I have.
Okay, thank you. If I wanted to get you photos, how would be the best way of doing that? To get them uploaded, because I don't think I can upload them to OpenGov.
Jenny would be the point person.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think we talked about that. Okay, questions from members of the commission, comments? And if we don't have people volunteer, I'll just do round robin and call on people. So in absence of having, you know, photos of documented evidence of a pre-existing walkway, we don't really know anything about it. We don't know dimensions or can't validate it or anything like that. Generally speaking, you know, if you were to come before us and ask for permission to build a wall within the 30-foot buffer zone, we wouldn't allow it. Generally, we also wouldn't within the 50-foot unless there was some kind of extenuating circumstance. And then within the 50-foot no structure zone, we certainly typically don't allow any extension or expansion of footprint of structures like a deck. Okay, so then I'm going to start out with you, Rich. What are your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I'd like to see a little more evidence of the walkway being there. And I'm trying to go back and I haven't had any luck yet going into some older pictures because I find it hard to believe that there wasn't a walkway there. I mean, the house has been there for 50 years. So it's not like it's a new house or a new property. So
Correct.
I'd like to see something just to give us an idea of the scope of what was there. But like I say, I have a hard time believing there was never a walkway there, and they do have the right to maintain and keep a walkway down to the water if there was if there was one there and they had access to the lake, which that's been open right down to the water's edge for decades. So just something to get a little better idea of the scope would be all I'd be looking for.
But to be clear, the walkway that we're talking about and the structures that we're talking about are around the house. They aren't down to the water.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Rich, thank you for that. Well, and what are your feelings about the expanded deck dimensions? Is it dependent upon the size of the previous walkway?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up the document here. You can come back to me in a minute if you don't mind.
Okay,
Let me get it up.
all right, Jeff?
Yeah, I guess, without any kind of pictures proving there was a walkway there, it's tough. I mean, I know that we wouldn't approve this if it was a new notice of intent, new construction, but in my memory, we allowed decks on other projects, I think. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, up to the 30-foot zone, as long as it's pervious. So that's kind of my understanding on that, at least. But so that the slight extension on the deck, I don't really see an issue with. It's just that walkway and the retaining wall.
I actually didn't get a good picture of the deck to see if there were holes, you
It's
know,
pervious.
slats. It's pervious. Okay, Sophia confirmed that it's pervious. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Mike?
Yes, I too would feel better knowing that there's a picture of something that we could see prior to the picture that exists right now. I just can't see in the past.
Okay, thank you. Jenny?
Same, it's hard to say anything if we don't know what the walkway looked like before and where it was.
I can try and find photos. So the walkway literally went out. And if we look at the patio again, so the pictures that Sophia had, and like what Richard said, we went out right, that's like our we have a basement and it's a walkout basement that literally goes right out to the water. And then my father built it around to go into the other side of the greenhouse. So you could go straight out to the water and then turn left and go to the other side of the greenhouse. So that's been there since at least I moved here in 1978. And like I said, it wasn't taken care of. The house changed ownership from my father to my brother to myself. It just really wasn't taken care of and was in need of repair. So we really tried to follow the same footprint. But I'm happy to try and find pictures. I'm sure they exist somewhere. And that's what we went over. So the only new structure was really adding that wall so nobody fell, because it is such a steep decline into the lake. Right. So we went over the same footprint that was already there, like we said, that walkway, but then added that wall so people didn't fall down when they were walking, because we didn't want to we didn't dredge, we didn't add new soil, we didn't, take down any trees, we didn't do anything different. We just wanted to make sure that it was safe. My mom is 81 years old. She owns the house with me. I really wanted to make sure that it was safe for her and other relatives that came here. My dad handed this patio back in, I think, 1982. And from the rodents, chipmunks, it was just unsafe at this point. All the stairs were falling apart. So, we redid it all to make it safe, and really tried to be cognizant of the lake, not tear anything down, not bring in anything that wasn't, safe, and thinking about the lake didn't change the structure. really wanted to follow the same footprint, so that's what we tried to do.
Okay, Chris,
It's kind of water under the bridge, but what I like to see in projects like this is an engineered drawing that shows the overlay of the before and after. It really gives us a picture of what's going on, but at this point, if any pictures would help.
yeah, I agree. Photos would help. And I would like to have the dimensions from the high water mark to the existing wall and to the deck shown, and the drawing updated with the stairs as well. So Melissa, I think we need to continue to a future meeting.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I think we need to continue to a future meeting so that you can, try to find some photos for us, so that we can substantiate the dimensions of the walkway and the existence of the walkway, pre-existing walkway, and then to update the drawing with the dimensions from the high water mark to the wall and to the deck, and then add the stairs.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to continue to February 5th is our next meeting. Do you think that will be time enough for you?
Yes.
We certainly could extend it to a different hearing if that's what you prefer.
No, February 5th is okay.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to continue to February 5th.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jenny?
aye.
And I for myself. Thank you, Melissa. Moving along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a notice of intent by Greg Roy for restoration of a previously disturbed area within the 150-foot buffer zones of a bordering vegetated wetland at 828 Lancaster Ave. So, do we have the applicant?
So Greg Roy with Dilson Roy, representing the applicant, which is Wachusett Investments, who are the owners of 828 Lancaster Ave. I don't know if they're on or not, not having the benefit of the Zoom list, but they might be, but I'll represent them anyways. So we were here a month ago. This was a project. This is the site, just for clarification, because there's two notice of intent hearings that you're considering this evening. The one that you've just opened is the one that's immediately on the corner of Goodrich Street in Lancaster. It's about 2 acres of land that contains the existing farmhouse in the existing driveway right in the corner of Lancaster Avenue, Goodrich. There's another piece of property that we're going to talk about next that Mr. Violet owns that's not the subject to this, but it's a little bit intertwined. So I'll try to do the best I can here. A little over a month ago, sometime in December, back up. The applicants are renovating the property. So they bought the old Parker residence, and they are renovating, doing extensive renovations both on the structure of the house, interior and exterior, and also on the site. They did a demolition of a portion of the building. I think, we'll call it a barn type structure that protruded out from the existing structure out towards Goodrich Street, where you can see labeled existing garage foundation location. They in fact demoed the existing structure that was in that location and built a new garage, which currently today just exists as a foundation, which we've labeled existing garage foundation. For the purposes of your commission, that is outside of the buffer zone. The buffer zone exists off locus on Mr. Violet's property, and you can see it's located on the screen. And on the plan is the sort of lightly shaded area, completely contained on the 157 Goodrich property. The buffer zones though do extend onto the site, and there was some work that was done essentially within the buffer zone from the existing driveway all the way to the property line, and indeed extending over the property line where you could say have the crossed hatching shown. So they have an area of crossed hatching, sort of a checkered hatch, if you will. That area is the portion of fill and grading that was done off property. The town, your commission, I think also the building commissioner got involved about a month ago, or maybe 5-6 weeks ago. The applicant installed erosion control barrier, and we've shown it on the plan. That exists today around the entire portion of the site, even in fact, outside of the buffer zone and all the way along Lancaster Ave. But most importantly, between the area where the land disturbance was done and the wetland system. Because some of the work was done on Mr. Violet's property, that erosion control barrier was extended in part onto that property. So the intention of this notice of intent is to correct that, to receive a notice of, apply for and hopefully receive an order of conditions for the restoration of that area. The removal of the fill that's off locus, and just general restoration and seeding of the area of the work that was done in the buffer zone. So there is no tree removal that was done. There's no proposed structures within the buffer zone. It's really just a grading exercise. It was done prior to coming before your commission. We did report to you that the applicants did retain us quickly after the town asked them to address the problem. And then indeed, I did show a dimension. The closest point between the silt fence, which is also the limit of where the fill was, and the wetlands is 38 feet. So there was no work that was done within your 30-foot no disturbance zone either. So there was no work that was done on the property or as in conjunction with this work that was non-compliance with your bylaw and regulations. It's just that it was done
Without permit.
without permit. So we're here to ask you, we're here to remedy that. I put together this plan identifying the areas where we're looking to restore. In fact, the whole site's going to be restored. I just focused on the areas within the buffer zone because that's the area, of course, under your jurisdiction. And I think I'll leave it at that. We did get a DP file number for this. I think there was some comments associated with that, and I forgot to print them. So I keep forgetting that I'm coming before you in person, and I can't just click over on the
You
internet.
didn't have to come. You could stay.
Well, I wanted to come because I know that there's Mrs. Whitney here, and I wanted to give her the respect of being here when she was going to be here.
That's very nice of you.
So I like being in person. It's nice to be in person.
Exactly.
So thank you for getting me out from behind my computer screen. So I think the DEP comments related to getting permission from the abutting property owner, which is Mr. Violet, which I cannot believe would be a problem. It's been a cooperative effort so far. And I think that perhaps suggested some conditions about the
I've got it right
percentage.
here.
Okay.
I have it on the
Oh,
screen.
great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then you can read it, Sophie.
The technical comments from DEP, the applicant should obtain written permission from the owner, abutting parcel, prior to performing any proposed, restoration activities and, submit proof to the commission. As there is a separate project on the abutting parcel that may interfere with proposed restoration work, the commission may choose to refrain from closing the hearing for the notice of intent submitted for 828 Lancaster Ave until, see, orders of conditions for the project on the abutting parcel has been issued to the applicant for the current filing. Can submit a revised scope of work accordingly. As the erosion controls depicted on site plans are pre-existing to the filing, the commission may verify that they remain structurally intact to effectively prevent erosion and sedimentation. The commission may consider incorporating a special condition in the orders of conditions if approved, stating that the restoration area must achieve 75% survival rate of all planted strata to be considered in compliance for the issuance of the COC.
Thanks. So I'll just say that I don't think there's any issue with obtaining permission. And I will say, I know it's related to the next filing, but if the commission issues an order of conditions for the proposed driveway on the
Adjacent area.
adjacent parcel,
Yeah,
it will effectively resolve the issue, the fill issue.
right.
So the driveway, and I did show it on the plan, it's really hard. I did put the dashed outline of where the proposed driveway is. It goes right through the fill area.
Right,
So effectively, if the commission were to act on the order conditions for the adjoining property, it's going to resolve that
yeah,
portion. And then it would just in fact be the restoration on the 828 property. So I don't really see that as a huge issue. You know, whoever gets there first, if 828, if you grant 2 orders of conditions, and 828 gets to the work first, then they'll pull the fill off and restore the area so that Mr. Violet can build his driveway. If Mr. Violet gets to it first, he'll build it, which will effectively do that portion of this work.
mhm,
And then there would just be, so I don't really see a timing issue there. I think either way, it could work. The 75% survival rate, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think your commission will grant us a certificate of compliance without more than 75% coverage of the grass anyways.
Correct.
So I don't have an objection to a condition like that, because I don't think in practice, you're gonna grant this COC without good grass growth there anyway, so. So I guess that was what I wanted to comment on.
okay, thank you. So a question I had, and Sophie brought it up last time, but before I walked out on the site, I wasn't clear on how significant it was. There's a lot of trash in that fill that's been moved over. And I'm used to there being, you know, the odd brick and cinder
Yeah.
block and whatnot. There was metal, there was plastic, there were PVC pipes. I mean, there is a lot of trash
Yeah,
in that fill.
Yeah. No, I think it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah,
Yeah, they need to pull that off. And it'll need to be loamed. The whole thing will need to be loamed,
mhm.
clean loam and screen loam.
So, so the challenge that I have is that it's not just the area you're thinking about removing the fill that seemed like it had trash. It seems like all along that area of that elevation where they had pushed, I don't even know where it came from. I mean, it's not clear from looking at the site where that fill came from.
My understanding was it came from the area where they were excavating for around the.
But the thing about it is
I don't
if you look at that, that there's enough fill already piled up there that actually is fairly clean fill with, you
Yeah.
know, gravel and whatnot in it.
Oh, I can tell you what I was told.
Yeah, I get it. You're the messenger. Yeah,
There was no answer to where the fill came from, but it was witnessed that a truck was coming in, bringing something in
Okay, so that could.
yeah.
offsite.
Well, that would explain it, because there was a lot of trash. I mean, plastic, like milk bottles and stuff like that embedded in the soil that just, you don't, I mean, anytime there's a construction project, there's some stuff, right? And, you know, contractors are notorious for not picking up all the stuff, right? And if it's buried, you know, they can't see it. But this was seriously like trash, yeah. Yes, please speak.
Well, what happened?
Could you, just for the record, state your name and
Yes,
address?
Patricia Whitney, 137 Goodrich.
Thank you.
When Steve Parker owned the land that Mr. Violet now owns, he owns the field and around.
Yes,
What Steve Parker did is he clear cut everything down.
Yes,
And then he terraced 2 spots.
yeah,
And he clear cut right to my pond almost.
yeah. I believe it, but we unfortunately have a statute of limitations of 2 years that
Right.
we're limited to go back and ask for
No,
corrective
but-
actions for.
I just wanted to explain why there's 2 terraces there.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for the historical perspective. Yeah,
There are 2
yeah.
terraces, yes.
Okay, I think I'm clear and I've walked out there, so I'm really clear on the topography out there. I'll open the floor to members of the commission that want to ask questions or express opinions. Yes, Chris.
So, but you're talking about the trash in the soil, is that gonna be, Greg, are you only planning to work on this area here, where it's, where?
Well, the entire area, the buffer zone is what's under your, is what's before.
So
you
is
tonight.
all that gonna be cleaned up?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
Okay, so you're not just gonna bury it?
well, it sounds like a condition is forthcoming to that effect.
Are you interested in that condition too, Chris?
Yes,
I certainly would
Thank
not,
you.
I would not suggest that to your commission, that we would propose, I would not propose to
Yeah.
bury the.
Thank
trash.
you.
He's got to represent his client.
Yeah.
Yeah, understandably. Okay, Jenny, is there anything that you wanted to add, having walked out there as well?
Just the condition of the fill would be my main concern, is that fill is full of trash, and I would love to see that replaced with something cleaner. I don't know, some of it's getting replaced, but see all of the trash fill be replaced if possible.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other concerns? Anything else we're looking for in terms of information or conditions on this particular what's it, 828 Lancaster Ave?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see anything from the notes other than just from the previous dialogue. So I think I'm looking for a motion to approve with the, since the DEP brought it up, with the special order conditions that are a special condition that 75 or more of the restoration be established before we approve. It's a good suggestion. We'll just write it down. And that the previous fill be replaced with clean fill.
So moved.
Trash removed. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Second,
Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich.
No.
Thank you, Rich. Jenny,
aye.
and I for myself. Okay, moving along. We now have the abutting property. 157 Goodrich. Okay, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Stephen Violet of Sunshine Nominee Trust for construction of a gravel driveway for accessing a future residential build site and an agricultural land within the 50-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetative wetland located at 157 Goodrich. And do we have Mr. Violet or his representative here tonight?
Madam Chair, my name is Greg Roy with Dillson Roy. I'm representing the applicant. I'm not sure if Steve is on the call or not.
Thank you. I don't see anybody that's obviously Steve,
So we were here 2 weeks ago to open this meeting. And just to refresh everybody's memory in hopefully 30 to 60 seconds or less, Mr. Violet owns the property. It's known as 157, now 157. At the time when we filed it, there was no address yet. And it's approximately 3.5 acres of land, that was previously part of 828 Lancaster Ave, but was subdivided a number of years ago, onto a separate parcel. There is a bordering vegetated wetland on the site, which is shown in the hatched area, if you have it, I think, on the screen. And Mr. Violet is seeking to construct a driveway access from Goodrich Street onto the property, really for two reasons. The primary reason out of the gate would be to provide an access for the agricultural land that he owns adjacent to the property further up northerly on Lancaster Ave, where he actively farms the property. But would also double as a driveway in the future should anybody wish to build a house there. So we're kind of building it in we didn't want to come across like we're pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. There's no immediate plans for a house, but it would be considered a buildable lot. So that would be the way that the house would receive access through the frontage. We spoke last time. There was some concerns about the way that we're proposing the grading and the proximity of that to the 30-foot no disturb zone. We're of course proposing to work almost right up to the 30-foot no disturb zone. I've talked to Mr. Violet and actually the adjoining applicant to see if there's any opportunity to reconfigure that lot line. That's really the only thing we can do. Would be to try to work between the two applicants to see if there's an opportunity to get a little bit more space on the Goodrich, 157 Goodrich property, closer to Goodrich, and trade a little bit of area in the back. So a land swap, if you will, something, you guys can't see it on the computer screen, but something like this. Move it over. Yeah, we just restructure the lot line so that this would go to that property and this would go to this property.
Hang on for a minute. Can you, Sophie, just trace that kind of with your cursor?
Sorry, it's easier when I have it on the screen.
Well, stand up.
I can,
Hold on just a minute, if you would, please.
Like completely backwards.
Look,
Oh,
this
it
is what he
is to
just
the
drew
right,
right there, yeah. So the people on Zoom can see it. So.
There's no way to draw.
yeah, you might.
No, but you can just move your cursor slowly.
So
and people will
essentially
get a
we'd be-
sense of what they,
Essentially for the people online, with the section of the driveway that's immediately adjacent to the lot line, we're seeing if there's a mutual interest in granting a small sliver of land from 828, deeding it to 157, so that the driveway could be shifted slightly closer to the existing dwelling. And then we would have to do what's known as a land swap. So further into the site, we'd have to give some land back to 828 so that there would be no change in area or frontage and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's commonly done. And I wanted to report to the commission that we're working, I'm trying to work that to see if that's essentially to see if that's acceptable with the folks of 828. Steve asked me to, I presented that issue to Steve after we met last time.
Mhm.
And he thought it was a reasonable approach. I just don't have a final answer for.
Oh, that's fine. And so would that also mean then that you move the driveway?
We would if we got the land.
Okay.
The trouble with that approach is it takes a little bit of time. I guess I'll maintain my statement. I completely understand where the commission is coming from, but I guess I maintain my statement that in our opinion, there's nothing that we're proposing with the way that it's currently drawn that asks you for any sort of waiver from the regulations. It's albeit close to the 30. We're not proposing any work within the 30. We're not proposing any structures within the 50. We're not proposing any tree clearing, any significant vegetation clearing. I really think that, that the 30-foot buffer zone, I mean, I didn't write the regulation, but most buffer zones like that, when they're undisturbed, are meant to protect the downstream resource area by providing the buffer for things like this, so that you don't have driveways right up against it. You have that buffer zone of filtering, if you will. You know, I guess I stand by those comments that I really don't see a huge risk here. But be that as it may, I did present it to my client to see if there's an opportunity to reconfigure. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I wanted to give you an update, I guess, on that. And I wanted to be here in person because Mrs. Whitney was nice enough, I guess I'll say, to come in person. So
Yeah, on a really frigid winter's
on a
night.
frigid winter night,
And figure out how to use the elevator too, which I admire greatly. And Ms. Whitney, I know you have some questions and I will get to you.
Okay.
And if I forget, just yell at me, that would be appropriate. Yeah. As I thought I had recalled, I know there was a concern about being right up next to the 30-foot buffer zone, but I thought I had recalled the primary concern being the elevation that's kind of farther away from Goodrich Street and the runoff from that with a little bit more velocity. And I thought I recalled those comments coming from you primarily, Rich. So maybe help me understand if I'm recalling correctly or not in that regard.
well, I can address that too. I don't want to cut Rich out, but essentially, we took, you know, I'm gonna say, you know, 40-ish feet into the site is where you really start to climb.
Yeah.
And even there, you're still really close to the 30. So there's really no room. There's no room to do any kind of, if we had an extra 10 feet, we could do some swale or some kind of mitigation outside of the 30 between, but there's really no room to do that. So I did look to see if there was some way we could do it under the current configuration. There's just really not. To do it in any kind of meaningful way and keep it outside of the 30. I think we could do a swale inside the 30 if the commission would be amenable to that. But we couldn't do it in a way that would be completely compliant with the no disturb zone. And, you know, so then the grades do continue to go up as you go up. But I think, you know, you would really have to do something in this portion of the site, I think, to make it, you know, within that first 40 to 50 feet of Goodrich Street, because that's where all the water is going.
Okay, fair enough. Anything you wanted to add, Rich? All clear to you, per your recollection?
Yep, that's pretty much my recollection. I did have one other quick question.
Yeah.
Where they have it listed as a future house access, does this driveway comply with the driveway regulations in Lunenburg, Greg?
It does, Rich, yeah, we laid it out at less than 12%.
Okay, and width is
Yeah,
acceptable to the
12 feet, yep.
12 feet, okay. So if you do put a house in here, no alterations to this driveway need to take place?
That's true, yeah, that's correct. That was our intention.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will call on Mrs. Whitney, but I just want to give the commission, they usually get to go first. The commission, anybody else have questions or comments? And I am not seeing any, so Ms. Whitney.
Okay, my concern is.
Oh, and again, for the record, your name and
Patricia
address.
Whitney, 137 Goodrich.
Thank you.
A butter. Right there, yes. I've got several questions, actually. The first one being, how will that impact my pond? I have a certified wildlife refuge pond, which is my back acreage. There are two lots, my house lot and then my back lot, which goes around and eventually in the back almost reaches Steve Violet's land.
Strider, please.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I'm concerned about, runoff and whatever. Because my pond is, like I said, a certified wildlife refuge.
And is the pond the one immediately behind your house and then there's a wetland downstream from that?
Yes, there's actually a stream that runs into my pond, and it's fed by 3 springs.
Oh, very nice.
So I'm really concerned about the runoffs. I mean, that's my main concern.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, and go ahead.
So with her concern, but the only disturbance is this drive, is there any, there's no change to pitch or anything, it's just this gravel
That-
driveway, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. So, I mean, I understand that I represent the applicant, so you might, I'm keenly aware that there's maybe a credibility issue. But really and truly, what we classify this as what's known as a non-contiguous piece of, I'll call it impervious, although we are doing a gravel surface, it will certainly be more impermeable than the existing condition. So it's not gonna be paved, but it'll be less pervious than it is today. But be that as it may, it's disconnected and it's linear, so you're really not gonna notice, in my opinion, any appreciable difference in runoff. So the flow is gonna be flowing, from the driveway surface down this way, and then it will flow down the thread line like this, all the way, being filtered, by the way, all the way through the wetland area. And so I think by the time you get here, you're not really not gonna notice the difference.
I don't know.
Well, I realize you may not agree with me, but that's my.
And our regulations are set up specifically to protect, this type of situation.
Because, Patricia, wait me again, because it is very wet in there,
Absolutely.
especially when there's a lot of rainfall and spring. When I mow my lawn, at some point, I can get stuck if I'm really near the edge.
But the only difference is this gravel driveway, how is that going to change what's happening today? You know what I mean? Like, I just wanna understand your concerns, because I'm seeing water running over a driveway into this big.
Over 30 feet of ground that's got, and the vegetation within that, I mean, it's heavily, it looks like marsh grass or short reeds or something, right? So there's a lot of vegetation, very heavily.
Fragments.
But it's the native ones, they were small, right? Here.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about in here, but here along the vegetated bank, I think it's a smaller, it's not the tall invasive ones, it's the smaller reedy.
To make sure that we're clear, we are not proposing work within the wetland areas. So.
No, I know
okay,
that,
all right,
but I'm concerned
Yeah, no, I
with
understand. Yeah,
what the impact will be, even though it's not in the wetlands.
understood.
Yeah,
How much is it going to impact my property?
and just for your information too, I just put in a gravel driveway, portion of driveway that is very similar slope between here and here. And water doesn't run off of it, it seeps into it. And we haven't even seen any migration of gravel along the sides or anything.
The real big concern is if, gravel, the hard thing you have with gravel driveways is when you plow. I mean, that's the time when you're gonna get the migration of those particles off the pavement.
Yeah.
If this were to be developed as a house, it's certainly gonna be plowed. I just don't anticipate that it's gonna be plowed much, if at all, when it's an agricultural access, because we're not farming the fields this time of year. And I understand your concern, and I can appreciate it. I just, in this case, I don't, things to say are that, the Wetlands Protection Act, the state regulations for these type of filings have thresholds for when we'd have to mitigate stormwater. And this is really falls well below those thresholds. The town also has thresholds that are more restrictive than the state's requirements for when we would have to mitigate, stormwater management, and this is also below those thresholds. So it's in the grand scheme of things, and I again, I understand, I'm the applicant's engineer, so I get that. But in the grand scheme of things, it really is a pretty small, project relative to the size of the land area, and I truly, do not believe you're gonna notice a difference by the time you get, down to the property line. You're probably not even gonna notice a difference at the edge of the wetland, and then by the time it filters through the wetland, I don't think.
What about the impact the driveway has on Goodrich Street, which is already very heavily traveled?
Well, that I guess, you certainly will be putting a few vehicle trips, onto Goodrich Street. I mean, but the intention of Mr. Violet from a farming standpoint is that this is quite a bit safer than, than the white knuckle ride you're gonna have when you're coming out on Lancaster Ave.
Yeah, which has always been what the,
Yeah,
Right.
but
what
it's,
the land.
Right,
they really move, so.
Tell me about it.
yeah.
I can't get
Yeah.
out of my driveway sometimes.
So, yeah, we do have other hearings that we need to get around to. Do we have other comments, or comments from members of the commission? Commissioners, are you looking for any other data? Do we have any other comments from members of the public? I'm not seeing any. Jeff, yes?
Yeah, I was just curious, Greg, if the applicant was interested in paving it like we discussed a couple weeks ago.
Quite frankly, I didn't ask him that again, but I can tell you that at the beginning of this whole process, he was pretty clear with me that he was really wanted to just do he's not looking at the costs of paving as, for this exercise.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be a significant delta in cost.
Yeah, okay, appreciate it.
Jeff, were you asking about that because you're concerned about future paving, or you consider paving to be an advantage?
No, I mean, we had discussed that paving would be an advantage because the big drawback is when you plow, that's when you kind of get that sediment and runoff. So if it's paved, you're not going to have that issue. So, I mean, I estimate it would be about 150 feet, but yeah, it is a significant cost to pave it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the cost is to do a land swap, but if it's cheaper than a land swap, pave it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Ms. Whitney.
I'm also concerned about, does anybody know what all the markers are on Goodrich Street on my property? Well, it's actually the town's property because of
I could we did do some staking of the line. I don't know that we staked this line.
You did.
Okay,
Well, I
we may
don't
have.
know if it was you, but
Well, we're the surveyor of record here too. Sometimes we put control points out in the street
yeah, because,
that aren't actually stakes.
well, there's a big tall one about this tall,
Yeah, but
close to my driveway. It's at least 40 feet from the marker, where the bound line is. My concern is, do you really know where the bound line is?
yeah,
Because they have surveyed, and they surveyed on my property, not past the,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
not,
no.
they are on my property.
Yeah, so whenever we do, just quickly, I know you're gonna, and I can meet with you on site if that would help.
That would,
If you would do that, that would be
Why don't I
great,
do
Greg,
that?
Yes.
because,
yes,
and boundary lines aren't really our jurisdiction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
Right.
but I can.
but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know what they're,
yeah, we can go over that with you. Yeah, I have a good explanation for that, I think, so, but
Okay.
yeah,
I'll spare the commission.
yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so, commissioners, I am, so Greg has given us the out of, the land swap. If the commission is not able to, in good conscience, approve under the current proposal. I for myself, would be willing to approve under the current proposal. But I would be looking for a motion one way or the other from the commission.
I motion to approve in the current state.
I have a motion to approve the plan as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Roll call vote, Jenny,
Aye.
Rich,
Nope.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike? Mike, you're on mute.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Chris?
Aye.
And I for myself. That gets us to 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2. 4 to 2 carries the vote with the approval. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I give you my phone?
Sure.
And I appreciate the commissioners that dissent, right? The strength of our commission is that we don't always agree. So thank you for those opinions. We'll move on to the next meeting. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. You guys, I'm sorry, you'll have to step out. We'll start over. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request to amend an order of resource area delineation by Christopher Anderson to remove a portion of the resource area delineation from the order due to maintenance performed on a man-made detention basin at 400 Leominster Shirley Road. And do we have the applicant and or their representative here with us tonight?
Yes, Bill Hannigan for the record.
Thank you, Bill. You want to give us an update on where things are?
Well, as we discussed at our last meeting, we sent an email over to DEP. We copied the commission on that email relative to the chronological order of the events. Our belief is that the
Hang on just a minute, Bill. The owl is really sensitive to noise, and there's a little bit of noise in the room. Okay, thank you. Yeah, please go. Continue, Bill.
Yep. So at the last meeting, we talked about having Sophia contact DEP to see if they would respond, because we hadn't received a response from them. I believe that Sophia has contacted Judy, and I think that and I won't speak for Sophia, but my understanding was that their response was more or less no response.
Sophia.
Their response was basically reiterating the same thing that I said the last meeting, or the meeting prior to the last meeting. Essentially, DEP, the fact that there was a duplicate did not have any, didn't present any changes in any way that the commission should proceed. At this point, in summary, what I got out of our conversation was it's up to the commission to proceed based off of their information provided. However, they're definitely leaning towards the fact that they do not want to, they would not like to see a amendment to a delineation that was legit at the time. Usually it's something, they would support more of something along the lines of a redelineation and say a wetland in another area on the parcel was found, and an amendment to that would be preferable, but not a complete elimination of a wetland that was that was present during the time of the Conservation Commission when they made the decision.
And that does make sense to me, except for the fact that this was a drainage system that we had no idea wasn't part of a drainage system when we did the delineation. And, I think that that's the point. The point is that when we did our delineation, we flagged it as a wetland because it looked like a wetland to us. When Keating went in and came in with an RDA saying, well, wait a minute, this area is actually part of our operational system and we need to clean it up to get our EPA documentation squared away, which I guess they're working on now. Then at that point, the commission then granted them or issued them an RDA to do that work back in March of 2023. They then, with that in hand, did the work the commission authorized. And from there, when we found out about it, we basically said, well, that would mean that really wasn't a wetland. We went back and looked at it and saw what was filed. And then we filed the request for the amendment to the ORAD to basically kind of match up with what the commission had done back in March of 2023.
Bill, clear something up for me if you would. Who owns the parcel that this work was done on?
The parcel is owned by the heirs of Paul Keating. So it's the Keating family still owns the land.
Okay.
PJ Keating is a separate company that is owned by Oldcastle Products, and they lease the land from Keating,
Okay.
from the Keating family.
Okay.
All right, so it's not they're not entirely related, although John Keating does work for Oldcastle as one of their executives, if you will.
Okay.
The Keating family doesn't own the plant anymore.
I'm clear on that. And so then the corporate Keating company that did the work there was doing it under the terms of their lease agreement with the owner.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That answers one question. That's something that I've been scratching my head just a little bit about. The ownership got kind of blurry there. But I'm clear that the people that did the work, actually, it was appropriate for them to request to do the work.
Right, and they did file with the heirs of Keating as the owner, as did we filed our stuff as the heirs of Keating being the owner.
Okay. All right, and so the advice from DEP is that it's not appropriate for us to allow an ORAD amendment to proceed because is it because that's not allowed under the regulation, or that's not the best practice? Are we clear on that? No?
I think it's that it's not typical that it goes this way. I think what it is, that it's typical that if we go back and we amend an ORAD, that we went out and during whatever part of design part, we found another area and we're adding to it.
Yeah.
In ORAD, and I kind of tried to quote it as best as I could, ORAD amendments are only for if a new BVW is located somewhere else in the property, not eliminating one from existence.
But as a regulatory language. I mean, I'm clear it's a best practice, but is it a regulatory language? Because I'm trying to get us out of having to talk about this every 2 weeks. But it's not clear to me from a regulatory perspective what degrees of freedom we had for proceeding, right?
Yeah, she did not quote that from the regulations.
Yeah. Yes, Chris.
It sounds to me like we're in some kind of catch-22 where it was incorrectly identified as a wetlands, and now we can't seem to get out of the fact that it was misclassified.
That's correct.
Be.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's gonna be a way to get out of that. I mean, it was a mistake, and did it wasn't us that said it was a wetland. It was the property owner or the person working on the property.
It was actually us that said it. And we.
And the commission, when we granted the permission to do the work, I don't remember there being any dissent about, that being perceived as a drainage basin.
Yeah,
at all.
because even on the Form 4B, there's the order of resource area delineation, and then just below that, there's a box that says amended order of resource area delineation. So clearly there's a process to amend it. We're trying to follow that process. It's just that I think this is just not the normal way that things go, because if we had knowledge, because we also worked across the street, and we didn't flag any of their areas that were wash ponds that are attached to this area on the south side of Clemens Shirley Road. All the areas on the north side of Clemens Shirley Road, we never flagged as wetlands because those were obviously part of their operational areas.
Well,
If we,
and this one was very heavily overgrown. There's no doubt about that.
right. So had we known this was part of it, we wouldn't have flagged it that way. I guess that was the end of my.
Fair enough, Bill. Rich, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess I just had a couple questions as to how we got where we're at. So Hannigan, Bill did the original ORAD and flagged this as a wetland, which means it was acting as a wetland. It was treated as a wetland. I guess I'm having a hard time because of the findings of some drain out of this wetland, that all of a sudden now it is no longer a wetland.
No,
So in my mind, sorry,
I think you're missing a critical point. So
which one?
So there was an ORAD which delineated it as a wetland. I don't know, maybe it was a year later. Bill, you're clearer on the timeline than I am. An RDA request was raised that came before the commission, that was permissioned by the commission. That you know, for whatever reason, our administrator didn't at the time, you know, maybe overlook the ORAD. I don't know. But it was at that time positioned as a drainage basin, and we permitted them to you know, go in and maintain that drainage basin. And so in the Sophie coming through and doing due diligence and whatnot, found that oh, I guess they asked, what was actually triggered you looking at that and refiling it? You couldn't find the paperwork for it, or
Yeah,
what?
they had reached out and were looking for the paperwork.
Yeah, they were looking for the paperwork. You couldn't find the paperwork, and so had done a duplicate and submitted that. And when DEP saw that, they compared it to the ORAD and said, wait a second, that's not okay. But the work had been permissioned, I think it was permissioned with, you know, maybe 2.5 years ago. It was when I was brandy new on the commission.
It was commissioned in March of 23, and they did the work in March of 24.
Okay.
So, and then when they did the work, that's when we looked at it and we said, well, how did that happen? We then found out, not that we didn't know, because, you know, just for as a point of clarity, it was never really, there was nothing really hidden from the commission about this being part of the ORAD area, because they used our plan to show the wetland area that we had flagged as Area D as part of their submittal when they said they wanted to clean that basin out for their operational aspect of things. Then they brought in other stuff that they had from historical aspects of things. So it wasn't like they presented a completely different plan and there was no check and balance on it. The same plan that we filed that was approved in the ORAD was utilized as a, hey, here's the area that we're talking about, and this is what we want to do with it.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Bill. Rich, does that answer your question?
Kind of.
Well, yeah, I just wanted you to be clear that the work that was done was actually permitted, you know, rightly or wrongly by the commission. So it's not like they went down and did work without filing appropriately.
Yeah, but the did the work that was done have any effect on ORAD?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
So the ORAD, because of because of the work that was done by PJK under the RDA, the ORAD then has an area on it that's designated as a wetland that's now being used as a part of the operational components for the Keating operations of their wash water and their plant. So that's what we came
Wasn't
in.
used like that prior to the designing or the engineering of the ORAD application?
There was no, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Rich?
You know, I guess I'm just trying to follow along. If we had an ORAD application and the engineers designated this as a wetland, why we're trying to change the designation just because we've done work on it? I'm a
Well,
little hazy on if we had a wetland, so obviously we were protecting the wetland up until a certain point where now we're not protecting it as a wetland.
and that's the fuzzy that's in this whole thing. When we filed it, we looked at it as a very, and I pointed it, I know Sophia wasn't involved at the beginning, but I think, you know, Mary, you've been out there. And if you went down the paved driveway that goes up to the back of that parcel, you look on the left and you look on the right, and what was on the left is what the right looked like. It was all overgrown with invasives and you know, plants and brush and stuff like that. So all that didn't reveal itself to be part of a drainage system or part of a operational wash water outfall system for the Keating group. And so we didn't know it was that. And if I'm going back to probably the first meeting that we presented this at, what happened was at some point in time, instead of them going across the street, they dug a trench across the land on the south side of, the north side of Leominster Shirley Road. And that went through the woods and down to another wetland over by the Lafarge plant. When we went in and did the work to build the 475 building, okay, that drainage ditch basically had to go away. So they had to figure out a way of letting their overflow water get out of their wash water system, which used to be this pond across the street. So that's when they came to you and said, now that building's over there, we can't go. And if you remember correctly, we were getting a lot of flooding onto Leominster Shirley Road over that winter period, with a lot of icing on Leominster Shirley Road, just prior to them coming in and doing and asking for the permission to clean that area up. So they came to the commission to clean out that basin so that they could then start using it again. And that's,
so we had an area that was designated a wetland, and our drainage water flowed around this wetland system. Then they lost that connection from one side of the street to the other because of the building that was put up.
No, backwards. What they did was the plan that's up in front is a great tool. The settling basin goes across, drains over to the drainage basin that's circled in red.
Yep.
What they did was, at some point in time, instead of them, I guess, dealing with the EPA with that red basin, they dug a trench across where it says land of where it says Lafarge North America, and that has an arrow, but there was a ditch that went around that open gray area down to the northeast over near Lafarge that was dug out. I don't know when, probably in the 80s, maybe, I don't know. But that's how they were draining out that settling basin number 4. When we built the building there, the water couldn't go that way anymore, and it started flooding out onto Leominster Shirley Road. So that's when they came to the commission to start reusing that basin, and they opened up the culvert underneath the road. So that's why they did what they did, and this is the plan that they use to show how their system works, basically. And then from there, they used our plan to show the D series wetlands that was in this area, which goes up a little further, to basically say, here's where we're doing the work. And then the commission, back in 23, the commission granted it. 24, they did the work, and late 24, we decided that we should get this clarified on our plans before we move forward with the rest of our design work. So that's why we're here.
Okay. And have you filed a plan for maintenance of the detention basin in
It's-
red?
It's not necessarily detention basin, and I know Sophia asked about that.
Yeah.
It's more of an operational item. We're not involved with their operations, so it wouldn't be us that would need to file that. I would have thought that if the commission wanted that back when they did the RDA, they would have asked for it then. But I think because of the fact that it's not a typical drainage detention basin, the maintenance of that doesn't really fall into the same category as under stormwater management, because it's not a stormwater management feature, if you will, from the operational side of things. I know some of the roadway drainage goes in there, but from an operational perspective of what PJK is doing, they need to clean it on their own periodic, or whatever the periodic method is that they need to clean it to make sure that it functions the way it's supposed to be functioning. Similar to what they just did recently, where they dredged that settling basin number 4 this past late fall, early winter.
I thought in Sophie's notes that she had made mention to the fact that there was no maintenance plan on the
Correct. Yep.
basin in red.
Correct. She asked me for that, and my response tonight, I'm giving you my response to that, is that it's not there's no when we do, like, for example, the building across the street, we did an O&M plan for all the drainage systems, all the stormwater features for that project.
Yep.
This is different, where it's actually part of the operational stuff, so it doesn't fall under jurisdiction of DEP, which is kind of the point of why the commission granted the RDA, and why we're saying if it's not part of the purview of conservation, because it's an operational feature of PJ Keating Company, similar to settling basin number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the other side of the road, then how can it be part of a wetland system? So it all kind of circulates around the fact of what is it used for, and it's used as part of the operational piece of the Keating Company.
How long had it been abandoned?
I don't know that, because I don't know the history of it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would go into, at least my thinking is, it may at one point have been a detention basin, but they abandoned it and moved their drainage system elsewhere.
But it's not, once again, it's not drainage, it's operational.
I mean, they've moved their operational water flow out of this area. And I look at it, maybe it's a little simplistic, but beavers go in, beavers make a dam, beavers make a flood. How long does that sit there before it becomes a wetland? How long has this sat here as no longer part of their operational drainage system?
But Rich, I guess I don't dispute what you're saying, except that they came before the commission deliberated and permitted the work, and the work is now done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everything you're saying would have been absolutely appropriate during that hearing, right? But now, after the work has been permitted through the lawful process, and is actually done, now what do we do? Right? And I think that's, Bill was trying to, through the ORAD amendment, trying to correct the status to what is, which is where I think DEP got flagged and said, now wait a damn minute, right? Or,
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it, I think if we were able to find the original ORAD, we would never have, Sophia would never have issued a duplicate. It never would have gone to DEP, and there would never have been any additional correspondence. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
And it's not anyone's fault, except for the fact that the records weren't kept as good as they are now, I guess,
Yeah. And so then, my question is, what are the next steps? right? Can we amend the ORAD? Oh, you do have the answer.
Well,
Sophie?
options, I guess. So if the commission doesn't decide to entertain or approve the amendment request, then I guess a letter from myself would need to be sent. There's no formal form or anything for that type of decision.
So say that again.
So if the commission decides to not approve or entertain the amendment request, that would mean a letter from myself would have to be sent
To,
to the applicant.
okay,
Them meaning
there's no
us
formal, yes, there's no formal, like form that
Okay.
would.
for
be-
denial.
yeah, okay, and then.
For an approval, you would just file the amended and read form.
So
The
if-
same form with check the amendment box checked.
Okay, and so if we rejected the ORAD, then what? It doesn't,
Does that mean you're then calling that a wetland, and does that put the Keating Company in violation? Would be the next question.
yeah,
We can unwind this, in several different ways, but I think what's done is done, my own personal opinion, but
I don't think
And
it would be a violation. Because the commission approved the work, but also knowing that it was a wetland and the delineation was accurate.
Hey, Bill,
yep.
have you submitted an updated ORAD plan that includes the area in red as part of their drainage system?
What we did was we submitted the D series, the same plan that we submitted before with the D series shown on it. We submitted that with a series of pictures of what the area looks like right now.
Okay.
And the only thing we're asking is that the D series get removed from the ORAD that was approved. So there's really not a need for another plan. It's more or less we're all in agreement that this area no longer is functioning as a wetland. And I do believe that the RDA allowed this because the area was in a buffer zone, which would be of the wetland on the other side of the driveway that goes up to the back, but it was stated that it was not a jurisdictional area, something to that effect. I don't have it in front of me.
And
So-
you submitted a narrative basically with a timeline and
Yep.
the decision process, okay?
Correct.
That answers my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And Rich, just to follow up on that, when I talked to Judy Schmidt originally, she asked for a timeline, and I sent that same timeline to her to go through the entire thing of what happened and what happened when, where, and how, which I then copied the commission on afterwards.
you probably don't want to share your screen while you're looking at your email.
I'm not.
Yeah, you were,
Oh, over here, you mean physically?
but it was up there.
Thank you, Bill.
How am I supposed to look for the correspondence?
I'm
of
just
that?
saying, sometimes you have confidential things in email. Yeah, I
Then there's
think
no way for me to.
you would have to just take it as an action to do after. Okay, so then in terms of next steps, if we approve the amendment, then, and DEP takes exception to it, then what?
Then they can appeal it.
Yeah, and if they appeal it and they end
Then
up with the,
Then we'll have to go deal with that. I at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Keating. I'm not even going to get involved anymore.
yeah. So Rich, have you ever run into this before?
Well, this is kind of a new one on me,
Yeah,
but
Well,
I've been
and honestly,
following the
Mary, I've never-
timeline and listening
I've
to
never run
Bill's
into this before
logic. I
either.
have no problem moving forward with approving the amendment for the ORAD. I mean, the logic is sound.
yeah, and so Rich, you were saying you had no problem approving the ORAD amendment to
At
the
this
ORAD?
at this point, I don't know. My questions have been answered with the timeline and the process, and I mean, unfortunately,
It seems
sometimes
to me like that's our option, is to approve it or deny it, right? And so
Mhm.
then the next thing is DEP is probably gonna appeal, right?
Well,
Okay.
there was a whole lot of should haves and you should be's, and you know,
Mhm.
it didn't seem like their response was quoting any regulation, which they do tend to, and they are 100% in the right.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of our jurisdiction, once we approve, we've done what we can, once we approve, it's.
Yeah, I also am inclined to approve, because I think the amendment, represents the status of what is. And we got to the status of what is, through the, applicants, taking steps and coming before the commission and asking for, permissions, right, which we granted. So I would be in favor of approving myself.
And then going back through my process, I am trying to figure out on what grounds that we would or could deny it on. Where the decision was for the RDA and the initial opening of the drainage out of the settling pond number 4 across the street.
Mm-hmm.
If you would kind of think that the commission would have been of the understanding that the water flow would continue and their drainage system would have to continue downstream.
Correct. Yeah, so, I think right now I'm looking for a motion to approve the, ORAD amendment as proposed.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote, Chris.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
aye.
and I for myself. Thank you for your patience, Bill.
No, I appreciate it. It's a very unusual situation. We'll see what happens from here. So I guess the next thing to take a look at, and it might be a good idea to take a look at the old ANRAD. And the other thing, which Rick brings up a good point, do you guys want me to submit to you an updated ANRAD plan without the D series, so you can reference that, a plan dated like January 20th or whatever it is, that can then go on record as the plan that we're using, that you know what I'm saying?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So what we'll do is we'll take the same set of plans you already approved and update it with a revision date, today or tomorrow, whatever it is, and get that over to you so that can become the ORAD plan of record for the filing.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense? Sophia,
Yeah.
does that make sense to you too?
Yep, I got it.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate your help on this.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Okay, moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation by Kevin O'Brien at 390 Howard Street. Do we have Mr. O'Brien and or his representative here with us tonight? I don't see Kevin on the call. They don't notify you?
Yeah, continue to the 19th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. So since I read it in, we got to vote it out. Looking for a motion to continue to February 19th. Thank you,
So moved.
Chris.
Second.
I think I heard Mike before you, Rich. And this is a continuation to February 19th. Chris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I for myself. Sorry about that, guys. Some unnecessary noise in the equation. Okay, we have 44 Brookview Terrace as an administrative determination. Sophia?
Yes, this one was a tree removal request. And the reason for the tree removal, request is Willie Adalgid. They had an issue with woolly doughet, and there are 4 hemlocks that are dead and diseased. They were proposed to remove them and get rid of the wood. Typically, the arborist that was on site, I spoke with him, very knowledgeable, and he recommended not to. Usually they stack the wood for wildlife habitat and just basic resources for wildlife nearby, but his recommendation was to remove that off-site because it has woolly doughet and doesn't want that to spread anywhere else. So my recommendation for that would be to just remove the trees altogether.
And are the trees located in any of the buffer zones?
Let me see, pull up the plan. So Hickory Hills Lake, the distance for one of the hemlocks is 64 feet. The other one, 117, the one next to that, 112, sorry. 112 and then 75 feet.
Okay. And yeah, so cut the trees, remove the vegetation, they're gonna leave the root ball? Or no?
Let's see.
Do you have to worry
I don't
about
think I
that?
have any notes on that.
I mean, if it's disease, he might, I don't know.
Any ideas, Rich? You happen to know if you need to remove the root ball with a woody doughet infestation?
No. Woolly doughet is just an aphid.
Right.
It's not gonna be found in the wood or in the root system of the tree. It's just on the green
Okay.
foliage.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, based off of their equipment and whatnot, it doesn't.
Think I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
I heard Rich as a motion and Mike as a second. Roll call vote. Chris, Mike,
aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
aye.
and I for myself. Okay, very good. All right, it looks like we're down to commissioners and Greg. So Greg, let's prioritize why you're here tonight.
Yeah, it's three things. One is I wanted to just tell you that we are now representing the owner of 10 Mass Ave.
Ah, great.
And we did submit a letter. I am not personally gonna deal with it. My colleague Frank Hartland is another engineer with us who will be representing them, but he submitted a letter with a timeline. It's probably not what you wanted to see, but it's realistic based on our workload in the office.
Okay,
So-
and just for the record, 10 Mass Ave is one of the
one
violations
of the
we've been
violations,
tracking for a
yeah.
while.
So we did, I think that the commission, we were not engaged at the time of your last meeting,
Mhm.
but I think it was the next day, we were contacted by the applicant. And I remembered that you had asked for, correspondence from the person's review consultant, which is now us. So you have that in your file.
Okay,
So that's all I wanted to report on that. And then briefly, if that's acceptable, to move on from that.
let's look at the timeline for just a minute.
Oh, sure, yeah. those
Yeah.
are- Yeah,
This is the first time I've actually.
yeah, I think we just got it to you. We were just signed, we just signed up. So we need to do wetland delineation, we need to survey. Wetland delineation really can't be done right now, it's just too frozen. So by the time we get all that done, we're really looking at probably your first meeting in April, realistically.
I would prefer it be done correctly
Yeah.
versus quickly.
Right, so that's, we will get out there as soon as we can.
Mhm.
But right now it's frozen tundra, so it's pretty difficult to do.
Yeah,
The fact
okay.
that he's retained you is good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that he knew that he had done that and wanted to present you with what with what we're seeing right now for a realistic timeline.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And, you know, I've walked out there, so I'm kind of close to it. This is, 10 Mass Ave. It's down off of, Pleasant Street? Pleasant Street
Pleasant
and
Street,
Pearl
down,
Brook.
it's down in that area. Honestly, again.
Yeah, I think it's
Frank,
Pleasant
the
Street
problem
and
is-
Pearl Brook kind of,
One door.
yeah,
must-
area
it
right
must-
behind A1 door and,
Yeah.
yeah, and, the applicant is, a leasing of the property and had just like rented an excavator and was back there moving things around.
Gotcha.
So I'm okay with the timeline and I'm a lot happier now that he's, engaged, your firm's, services. Any questions or concerns by members of the commission? I don't think we have anything to vote on with this. It's informative. But if you have questions for Greg, or concerns you want to express, now's the time. Okay, and I'm seeing none. So Greg, what was your,
The others are just status update. I want to let the commission know that we filed the site plans for Table Rock.
excellent. This is the grant work for,
The grant work, yeah.
the 2023 recreational trails grant.
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
So we filed, so on Table Rock, we filed, the planning, site plan with the planning board, and we actually filed a notice of intent with the state and with their commission. So those are in the works. I'm not certain on the dates for those yet, but those will work themselves out. And then, the, Reno property has also been filed. And with the planning board, it's actually, we were able to keep that completely out of your Conservation Commission jurisdiction. So you'll just be applicant on that. You will not be applicant and reviewer. So it does require planning board filing because it's 5 or more parking spaces, but, it didn't require notice of intent, so.
Excellent news. Now, Ryan had been chasing me about signatures and we ended up, going down and doing
Yeah.
physical signatures and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
like last week, the DocuSigns showed up.
Oh, it did?
And I assume I can just ignore them
Yes.
now, or,
Yeah, you
because I
sign.
assume that if Ryan needs something from me, he will make himself known.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, good,
so
good. Excellent. Thank you for those updates.
that's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah,
That's great.
very
Thank
good.
you very much. Nice to see you in person. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving along. Do you have updates, Sophia, from any other, violations, enforcement actions?
48 Meadow Lane, I just received some photos depicting some either storage or dumping or combination of the two within a wetland buffer zone from a neighbor.
Okay, can we see those then?
I would have to access my email,
Oh,
because
okay,
it's not a open gov.
yeah. Yeah, I think just, don't do the display for a minute and, yeah, so what we're running into is since, Sophia's been running the meeting, anytime she looks for something, her, email, shows, on the display. And, in the nature of her work means that she sometimes has confidential information in her email, which is why I've asked her not to, show her email searches, on the display, and we'll reconnect the display, as soon as she has, located those photos. Oh, okay, this is the one that, Meadow Lane is out kind of, it kind of completes the circle with, Rolling Acres, here in town. Okay, do you know what we're looking at?
So this is a photo taken from 48 Meadow Lane property, looking at an adjacent property. Let's see.
Did they give you the address of the adjacent
Uh,
property?
They did at one point. I don't remember, but I could
Okay,
find it on the map.
okay. Sure, which one?
Here's, I think it's this one. Yes, because the shed was, or the shelter was in this corner right here, so it's coming from this one.
Okay, and so she is pointing to on my iPad 24 Meadow.
24 million.
Yeah,
So we're dealing, so. If we don't.
in a wetland area.
So here's a different angle, and you can see all this stockpiling of maybe a TV and whatnot.
Okay, and this is, there is a wetland back there. Right now, I'm just looking at the, on my iPad, so it's disconnected, the property, map. I think Mass Mapper shows wetlands back in that area. So have you had an opportunity to contact the, 24 Meadow?
Not yet. I just received these photos Tuesday. I wanted to get confirmation that that was
That you're reading it
happening,
properly and whatnot, yeah.
before jumping on that.
Okay, so why don't you let me share for a second? So this is that same area that Sophia was just showing a satellite image for. This is from Mass Mapper with the DEP wetlands layer shown. So 24 is, I think she was saying that this is what she was showing the back of where the dumping was. So you can see the proximity of the wetland there. Okay.
Now, what is that, a marsh?
I think wetland kind of.
And it has some tributaries feeding it.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
There are layers that can help determine roughly what type of wetland.
that's okay. I'm just curious. It's all right.
Okay, so I think the next step is to contact 24 and then, whoever sent you the photos and get permission to go walk back there.
I did ask about that. It's virtually impossible from what I've understood, what they told me from their property.
Oh, because of the
It's so-
extensive wetlands?
It's so wet that it's inaccessible.
So I believe, so here adjacent to them, Palo had actually come before us before and identified an issue. You might be able to contact them and see if you can access through their property. Because that'll get you on the same side of the wetland.
It would get me closer.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, they must have been able to get back there to do the photos.
They own this. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they were able to get there to do the photos, they should be able to get you there again, right? And especially now when the temperature's cold.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see what you can do, right? And then we'll take the next steps as we get there. Okay, and so 48 is the new one, no other updates from any of the others?
No.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, now I haven't heard of anything new in the past 48 hours. Things we're tracking, the Wildlands grants. Do we have anything more on Wildlands grants? Chris, you had
Well, my
sponsored
neighbor had
one.
sent me something, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I'll do it the next meeting.
Okay. Farmlands of local importance, we're just tracking, and as you guys may recall, this was, Farmlands of Local Importance is a, federal grant, an opportunity for local farmers to, have, their soils considered, and I've actually referred that to the Ag Commission, and they are supposed to be taking that up later, when they meet later in the month. Conservation budget report. I looked at the budget And I didn't have any questions, although one thing that, I had asked Sophia to work on, is looking at our current fee structure and, considering what we, if we should increase fees, because we haven't increased fees in a very long time, even though the living wage has been going up. And with the interest of being able to afford a consultant for the office to help with general matters. Right now, we just tend to ask for the applicants to pay for consulting for larger or more complex projects. And I think it would be helpful for the office to have the direct support of a consultant and also be kind of our SME. Anyway, that's just an action. Sophie's taken it on, but it's the kind of thing that she needs a couple of cycles to think about and research a little bit. Do you have a guess about how long or when you might be able to look at that again?
Well, the fee schedule itself, I spoke with Chris Riley and briefly, and he said that he would give me some sort of example of a red line change to put in the warrant article, which is due next week. That would change the process of having the commission to go through. I think he said select board. I don't recall.
My understanding of the wetland, the current wetland regulation for, the fee structure is defined by the wetland regulation, and my understanding is Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over that. We would just have to have two publicized meetings, and deliberation and a vote of the commission to change the fee structure. Does Chris have a different take on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've talked to Brian, I've talked to Chris, in the past, and the same, I'm still getting two different.
I can find it in the regulation. And did I hear something from a member of the commission online?
Oh, you guys froze up. Say that again.
I thought somebody had some commentary online.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the Conservation Commission has the authority to change the regulation. There is a structure in place as far as advertising and public hearings for the regulation change.
Yes.
But that is at our purview. I'm not sure why Brian or Chris would think otherwise.
I've seen it. I've actually seen it. This came up like a year ago or so. I've seen it, so I can get back to it and I can send it to you, Sophie. So you can help.
Yeah, because we had rewritten the regulations, 4 or 5 years ago. So.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for validating me, Rich. I appreciate that. Every now and again, I think I'm losing my mind. Okay, paint stewardship, Chris, you were gonna look into local opportunities for recycling?
Yeah, I'm actually at the point, my stance is that I think paint can be safely disposed of if it's handled the right way. Latex paint can be dried out and thrown in with regular trash. Oil-based can be mixed with kitty litter or sand and thrown out the same way. So I don't think we need to pursue anything more than that. I'm just not, I just don't see the need for that.
Okay, I'm hearing a motion not to proceed with the paint stewardship program, correct?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote, Chris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jenny?
Aye.
And I for myself.
There's an email from Ann Aubrey to you. asking- Okay.
Yeah, I was just waiting on the vote to be able to say one way or the other.
No worries, just make sure you
Yeah.
know.
Okay, Sophia, any progress on the senior volunteer program to get some extra clerical support in the office?
There's no progress. I did ask HR some clarifying questions, but
Mhm.
she's yet to get back to me on those
Do
questions.
you at least think you're on the list?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, if I was of the impression that like she has some kind of deadline coming up, do you even have a clear idea of like what her deadlines are?
For applications,
Yeah, and yeah, applications coming in.
I don't know, but it's probably listed on the town website.
Okay. So don't hesitate to ask for Chris's, I think Chris's support would be more meaningful than my support. I'm always happy to send an email if it's helpful. But yeah, don't hesitate to ask for Chris's support, because I mean, there's a lot of clerical work and there's a lot of, you know, finding old documentation and whatnot that it would be helpful to have more hands for. So I mean, you certainly have my support if there's anything I can do to help you with getting some extra hands.
On top of that, I even asked if that were to fall through and we don't find somebody, is there any possible way to find
Mhm.
somebody else? Just a workaround to
Mhm.
have somebody in there, a
Mhm.
third person, to pick up what was left.
Okay,
We'll see if I can get an answer on that.
okay, cool. And then tree policy?
Oh, that was just kind of, I sent an email with information and attached a form that I wanted to start using, and I wanted to know if the commission had any thoughts or questions on it. So Lunenburg Conservation Commission tree site visit form.
And I was just gonna go look that
I
up.
also added it to the meeting, yeah, I added it to the meeting folder in the SharePoint.
Okay, and I think it's called revised tree policy in the email. I think that's the subject line.
So the revised tree policy is a different application.
Oh, is it?
that- Yes, but it's also just there for you know, I'm sparking ideas for the future. I'm not sure exactly what we have in place, if it's similar to this, but then I found a more user-friendly, concise form for myself to use in the field.
Have you circulated this one yet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And that one's also on the share drive? And I'm sorry, I was looking at the email when you said where you stored it, stored it under the meeting information?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Well, I will look at that and let's try to, does anybody have questions or comments about that? You know, I, for one, fully am supportive of any opportunities for Sophie to, you know, enhance efficiency, right? And particularly make record keeping clearer. So kudos there for looking at ways to optimize. That's really great. If we don't have any questions, I think I'd like to look for us to make a vote next time not next time we meet, we're not gonna do routine business, but next time we meet for routine business, which is the 5th, to be in a position to vote on it. Okay? I think that gives everybody time to look at it. Don't have any updates on title searches or April Earth Days. No updates on, well, okay, so 950 Chase Road, that parcel is actually up for sale. And is listed as a slight update to the commission. But since there's a potential litigation there, I don't want us to deliberate on that at all. I just want to make certain that the commission was aware that parcel is now listed for sale. Don't have any updates on 315 Lancaster Ave. Chapter, okay, you've got to go because it's, wait, well, you can't go because it's after 10 and you're running the show. This is a catch-22. Okay, do we have anything else critical that we need to talk about? Because Sophie has a 10 o'clock deadline so that she is able to get out of here at a reasonable time. Do we have anything else critical on the agenda that we need to discuss? Just as an update to the commission, Michael Ray Jeffries, who has volunteered to do do a red line of the Hollis, custodial agreement, has said, you know, he's been really busy, which I appreciate. He's doing this as volunteer time for us. He said, maybe the second meeting of February, he thought he would have some red lines for us to review. I told him that would be fine. And if there are no other critical items on the agenda, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris.
Second,
Thank you, Jenny. Jenny, good job sticking it out with us too. I appreciate you dialing in. I know you're under the weather.
Yeah, feel better.
thank you. I almost fell asleep, but I didn't.
Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you all.
Good night.
You.
Good night.